Hello, creators! I'm Chris Perillo, and I'm an entrepreneur like yourself, a business creator, a self-employed person, someone who has been doing what I've been doing for however long I've been doing it. Wow, 20 years, according to my invisible watch there. I'm streaming this particular video live, and hopefully you don't mind. It's my preferred method of communicating. Everyone's got a different way of communicating, and there are different ways that could be very, very useful for you to be able to accomplish your goals as a creator. And when I say that, I mean there's no right way, and there's really no wrong way. There's just a lot of variations in between, shades of gray. It's never really black and white. And I had someone reach out to me this morning, and I wasn't really expecting this to happen, but it happened. Someone who creates content, typically as a podcast. For a few years, he's been a podcaster around a particular topic that I happen to be a fan of. And he just recently decided to make a shift in terms of publishing to go to YouTube. So to effectively take that brand that he had built around the podcast and take it to a completely different channel, a completely different medium, right? Podcasts, audio only. YouTube, obviously, a very video-driven medium. And I've seen a few people make this leap, and it's worked out very, very well for them. And I've seen a few people attempt to make this leap, and it's not worked out well for them. The first thing that I would, certainly bring up is that when you've got a core community that has known you through one particular type of platform, I wouldn't call podcasting a platform apart from the medium. And of course, the medium is not the message. But if your community, or if you've got this audience that is only used to hearing you, specifically in podcast form, they've already got you worked into their routine. They're fine with the status quo. They're fine with the way things are. So getting them to move may be a great deal of momentum that you're never going to be able to surmount. Being able to take even the same kind of content and expect that it's going to translate elsewhere, theoretically, it could. If that base, it's a rabid fan base and they love what you do over here, has this need to have you over here as well, it could absolutely work. Maybe they demand more video from you. Maybe they don't want to just hear you. Maybe they want to see you. Then you have to ask, well, what's going to be the difference between this and this? If they just want to listen, they're fine in listening. If they don't want to see you, the chances of them following you on a medium that's driven or focused more on videos is probably not as high. But maybe you could effectively add something to what you would normally be doing. Video. Use video to your advantage. It's not audio. So the thing you got to remember with video is that things have got to look good, not just sound good. But of course, with video, it's more critical to have better sounding audio, believe it or not, than it is to have nice looking video. If your audio's bad, you've got a bad media experience, whether it's audio or video. But play to the video's strengths. So my suggestion was, in a roundabout way, effectively doing my best to explain, look, play to the camera. The camera's there. It's not something where you have to be reserved, where in a typical podcasting fashion, you're playing to the microphone. The microphone is your audience. You can't interact dynamically with the microphone. They may not be able to pick up on what it is that you're putting out there. But in video, you have a chance to get in their face. You have a chance to showcase something that you couldn't necessarily showcase physically, at least, in audio, apart from describing what something happened to be. And it's really a different way of connecting with that audience, as long as you play to it. So if you're going to cover a topic that could easily be covered in both mediums, you almost have to you have to play it differently. So if you're, let's say, answering a question like I'm doing right now, I may answer it differently if I was focusing on audio, and I'm pointing over in this direction because I have no other way of clearly demonstrating audio versus video apart from the direction that I'm using here in my video. You're talking. All they have is the sound of your voice, maybe some sound effects or music or whatever. But in video, you have a chance to translate it differently and give them more of a feeling that they're sitting across the table from you. And I think that is a compelling use case for video if you're talking about the same kind of thing, same kind of content, what they would normally expect in a podcast, in video, what's going to make them want to watch that video. So another way that's a delineating factor between what might happen in audio versus what would happen in video would be length. Podcasts tend to be a bit longer, up to an hour or longer. And certainly frequency can also be an issue versus videos. Videos typically on YouTube are short. I'm not a really good YouTuber. Then again, I've never called myself a YouTuber. I think it's the worst label you could ever slap upon yourself. I can dive into that topic at a future date. But I tend to do longer video rather than shorter video. So that's the direction I decided to go because I have a difficult time making short video. I have a difficult time sometimes making short audio, but a shorter audio segment wouldn't necessarily play well to a podcast audience versus a shorter video segment playing very well to a YouTube audience. As long as what you are creating is compelling enough to drive someone from here to there. And I don't have an answer to this particular question. It's completely contingent on your scenario, on your use case. And certainly it's subject to change too. If you learn something as you're moving along, I say stick with it. I said something similar when I talked about live video versus pre-recorded video. There are benefits and drawbacks to either one of the formats, just like there are benefits and drawbacks to the podcast format versus the YouTube or the video format. Let's not even talk about YouTube as a general platform, just the video format, because you could use Twitch, you could use any other video service, Periscope, live video service, or Facebook even. That's something that I would also add. The podcast is usually an audio file that people only want to listen to in their podcatcher or whatever client they use to download podcasts. But video could also be reused and repurposed. You can have it on YouTube, but you could also have it on Facebook. You could also upload it to Twitter. Put it everywhere. You don't care how someone listens to you. You just want them to listen to you, depending on your use case. Maybe you want certain statistics, or maybe you just want them to listen. And I think in the early days, it's more incumbent upon you to drive that attention, because if you were typically known for just doing that one thing, it's going to be an uphill battle getting people to make that leap, because I'm not sure if they have. And in particular, this person's area or scope of focus, or the coverage, the topic, the genre, a lot of the people that might listen or watch that content are likely, or more often than not, listening to other podcasts, not necessarily watching these types of videos on YouTube. That's just based upon my experience. So the community may very well dictate the direction that your new endeavor is going to go, and it may have to become a new community entirely. There are going to be people who are only going to listen to you, and then there are going to be people who are only going to watch you if what you are creating is compelling in either one of those verticals. And that's just been in my experience of doing podcasts and, of course, doing video. I have discovered certain things about myself and the things that I would like to be able to do within a podcast that I can't necessarily always do. I think podcasts lend themselves very well to having guests. Video, maybe not as easily, depending on how it's done. But it's all the more reason that I really would rather do, personally, my podcast with somebody else. I want to try to pull my wife into it. I don't know if she's going to be as interested in doing something like that. Maybe like dinner conversations I think would be interesting, but she's not as much of a fan of the camera or the microphone as I am. And if I could just catch her in one of those natural conversations that we would normally have, I think it would be very, very interesting. Capturing conversations, that's what a podcast medium is good for. Live video is very good for capturing conversations if you've got an audience that you're able to interact with. And I do have a very small audience watching me live right now. But the reason I'm streaming it live is because it's easy to press record and then move on. So you can just play to your strengths in either direction. And if your strength is your passion for your topic or that focus, play to it. Then play to the strength of the medium. Use that camera to your advantage, not just, having scenery that's supportive of what it is that you're doing. But get to know the camera. The camera's your friend. That's the way I always look at it. I mean, seriously, I don't just want to watch someone talking to a microphone. I want to talk to them or feel like they're talking to me. like they're jumping off of that screen and into my face. Now, granted, I use hand gestures all the time. I'm very animated, always was, even outside of a camera. If you've ever watched me simulcast the recording of my podcast, I'm like this, talking to a microphone. That's another reason why I'm pointed that direction, because I just have a mic set off to the side while I stream my podcast recording on Twitch. Again, kind of crossing the streams and making it possible for people to hear me say something when they may never have listened to it, versus people who only want to listen to the podcast that I record. The only podcast, by the way, recommendation that I would have in terms of if you were thinking about starting a podcast, Anchor.fm has been a rather fantastic way of doing it. They take the geek out of it, which is exactly what needed to happen with the podcasting scenario. It's one of the reasons why I kind of held off on getting back into doing a podcast. But YouTube, of course, is a great platform. Twitch, Facebook, video. Repurpose it. Play to the camera. Show them things. Jump out and in their face. Care about your audio, but, maybe even look into a different audio solution such that the person's not concentrating on the microphone that you're talking into, and they're concentrating on what it is that you're saying and how you're saying it, or what it is that you're showcasing. Play to video. Make the topics worthy of a video. Those are my thoughts in terms of podcasting and video and where they kind of cross over and if they can kind of cross over. I'm interested in continuing this conversation as well. If you have any further questions, feel free to ask. If you're looking for even more personalized advice from me, I'd be more than happy to give it. Head over to CreatorAdvocate.com, join, and then you can get your personalized questions answered from me. Very happy to do so. Until then, I'll continue to offer generalized suggestions for everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate it. I apologize for the noises of the sounds that I'm... Noises of the sounds? Noises of the things that I keep hitting on my desk. I'm too animated. I love you. I appreciate you. And at this point, I'm going to leave you to your own devices. May the Force be with you.